So there are these two applications which you may have heard of called Photoshop and Lightroom. They're industry standard applications for the post-production of images. But what are the differences and which one is best for you? Well, in this video I break down 5 differences and similarities between the two applications so we can find out which one is right for you. Coming up. Hey, what's up guys, my name is Thomas and on this channel I do wildlife photography tips and camera settings videos as well as editing trainings just like this one. So if you're new here, consider subscribing. Difference number 1 is in the interfaces. Lightroom has a very simple, intuitive layout with most controls already on display, whereas Photoshop's interface has a lot more features, but they're mostly hidden behind the scenes, meaning Photoshop has a much higher learning curve, especially if you're just starting out. As you can see, in Lightroom, all the sliders are already on display here, but in Photoshop, you have to go into one of the menus and apply a different filter to access the same controls. And this brings us on to one of the similarities between the two applications. Both Photoshop and Lightroom possess the same basic editing suite, including sliders, curves, and adjustment brushes. In Lightroom, all of these tools are already available on startup, whereas in Photoshop, you need to use the Camera Raw filter, which is basically just a Lightroom develop window which opens up in Photoshop, giving you access to exactly the same tools and controls. So, if Photoshop basically has Lightroom built in, why use Lightroom? Well, for one very good reason. Lightroom has a whole module dedicated to sorting through thousands of images and categorizing them. It allows you to compare images directly and look to see which one is sharper. This has made my workflow so much more efficient and isn't even an option in Photoshop. Another difference is in how the edited files are stored. In Lightroom, the application creates what is called a catalogue, and this stores all the information about the adjustments you have made to your images. So even if you restart the application, all of your edits are still there and are immediately available to use. In Photoshop, however, you have to save every single file as a Photoshop file. Otherwise, you lose the ability to re-edit it later down the line. This can be very frustrating as it means that you end up with hundreds of Photoshop and Adobe Camera Raw files in your folders. And that is a lot of files. So the fifth and final difference we're going to talk about is compositing and adding or removing objects. For this, Photoshop is the hands down winner, simply because it gives you far more tools than Lightroom's singular spot removal tool. Photoshop also provides the option of creating multiple layers, which Lightroom does not, making Lightroom solely a retouching program. So, which is right for you? If you're just starting out in editing, then my recommendation would be to start in Lightroom. This is due to the more intuitive layout, simpler interface, and fewer controls. Then, if you get more advanced in editing, it won't be such a shock to jump up to Photoshop for those more advanced editing tools, especially since you can use Adobe Camera Raw in the exact same way. For me, I love Lightroom for sorting through my images and editing a foundation which I can then build upon in Photoshop. So I personally use both applications side by side. Question of the day: what editing software are you currently using? Let me know in the comment section below. Alright then guys, thanks so much for checking out this video. Please hit the like button if you thought it was valuable and definitely subscribe for weekly informational videos just like this one. Until next time, stay creative and we'll talk soon.